hit it at the screen and Elaine.
Elaine's already said stuff like that. Like I said, I'll share my screen in a minute and that's what they'll see, so.
I'm glad you can do that because I can figure that out. So, yeah, I'm watching.
You're on TV.
I need a spoon. All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:34. I'd like to welcome all the guests. We'll move on to the approval of agenda. Motion by Mark. I'll second. Second by Dennis. Further discussion? Favor, right hand? 4-0. Open forum.
We did not have any.
No signs up for open forum. All right, before we move on, we'll go through the open forum responses from last month. Questions regarding the accuracy and recording of the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes follow guidelines as outlined in Sunshine Law 610.020 and is specified in School Board Policy 0420. Questions regarding closed session meetings. The question was that the board must have an open session prior to closed session. Isn't this true statement? Board Policy 0410 states, quote, the board may vote to conduct closed session, executive sessions as provided for the policy 0430 executive sessions, unquote. Also, RSMO, Revised Missouri Statutes 610.022 subsection 2 states, quote, a public government body proposing to hold a closed session meeting or vote shall give notice of the time, date, and place of such closed meeting or vote and the reason for holding it by reference to specific exceptions allowed pursuant to provisions of section 610.021. Such notice shall comply with procedures set forth in section 610.020 for notice of public meetings, unquote. Survey results regarding facility input and instructional resources input was discussed at the November 12, 2019 special board meeting. This was a working session to work on facilities plan. The meeting was an open session meeting. The facilities plan was developed with input from administrators, teachers, board members, and community members. It was adopted on December 19, 2019 during the open session meeting. The results of the survey were also utilized in developing the CSIP plan, which were put out for input and comment and were adopted at the June 15, 2020 board meeting. The March 23rd, 2020 meeting began in open session. A motion was made and second to go into closed session, and the motion passed. This is the reason the open session minutes were approved for March 23rd during the April board meeting. Bills were paid for March because both March and April bills were approved in April. 2 audit bids as well as 2 bank depository bids were presented to the board in open session in the April 20th, 2020 meeting. All bid information was provided to the board and can be requested by contacting the custodian of records, which is Tina Smith. Another comment that was made I'd like to address was that the meeting minutes are recorded by the board secretary. Once the minutes are produced, they are then proofread by the superintendent for spelling errors. At no time does the superintendent provide feedback information contained in the minutes. The minutes then are provided to the board members for corrections and are omissions, then voted upon for approval at the next board meeting. All right, we'll move on to approval of consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by second by Ty. Oh.
We'll do those next time.
Further discussion. All in favor? Approval and transfer and payment of bills. Do you have any questions?
We didn't, nobody had any questions this one?
I'll make a motion to approve payment.
Motion by Mark. Second by Maloney. Further discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Reports, this one.
In lieu of my traditional reports this month, there are 3 different things that I have put in your folder to go over. One is our one-to-one technology proposed handbook. Eric, Mr. Feibel, and I have spent some time going over this, looking at it, trying to come up with what we feel like are protocols that will help our students make a successful transition to one-to-one technology in grades 7 through 12. So I wanted you to have an opportunity to see that and to look it over, ask any questions, and just give any input or feedback that you may have there. I'm not going to obviously read through the whole handbook, but if you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to try to answer those. The other thing, well, let's skip down for a minute first. The AMI plan, we could submit a plan to DESE for alternative method of instruction. So should we need to make up days of instruction and we need to do that virtually, that would be an option for us. So the AMI plan is specifically for the first 36 hours of weather makeup days. Well, we already have those built in, so I don't necessarily foresee that being something that we do, but just in case, we want to have that plan in, and that plan was approved. Well, then they came out with an AMIX plan, and that plan is specifically related to if we had to close for COVID-19. So last year, they basically waived all of those attendance days, and now we've had to submit a plan that says, how would you do instruction in the event of a school closure of any type again? So our AMI plan, which is for bad weather, was submitted and approved. Our AMIX plan has been submitted, but we do not have approval on that yet. I would look for that to come anytime. Well, actually, I don't know. They're not due now until August. Ours has been in for a few weeks. They're trying to get them as soon as they can, so hopefully we'll have approval on that. But that allows us to do virtual instruction if we had to and not lose out on attendance reporting as a result of that. So that's what those 2 plans are. The last thing in the folder that I have put in there for your review are the draft COVID procedures for next year. These have been developed in conjunction with the health department, as well as all of the other Osage County schools, including parochial schools. So for the most part, everybody's are going to be pretty uniform, but there is room for schools to do things a little bit different as well. You know, they have implemented, or we will be implementing things such as level 1, level 2, level 3, you know, based on how many cases or how many, you know, positive cases in school, that kind of thing. So some of this is broken down by levels. And again, I just want to put it out to you for your input, your thoughts. It will go out to staff members tomorrow so that they can have input into it. And then it will go out to parents. I have it scheduled and I can't remember if it's Thursday or Friday, but one of the 2, it'll go out to parents and community for input as well. One of the things I do want to draw your attention to is, you know, one of the things that we definitely have as a goal is not to have to completely shut down again. And repeatedly, DESE and the governor have said, we're not going to shut down schools again. So in light of that, one of the things that we tried to do was really come up with a plan. So if we're able to open school and we're at level 1, it's everybody here, everybody in seat, taking precautions, but here. But if we do have to do some additional level 2 and level 3, level 2, I have this feedback and I can hear myself about 3 seconds after I say it. So let me turn this down real fast. Oh, that's better. So level 2, our plan is students whose last names begin with the letters A through K would attend Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So then kids whose last names begin with the letters L through M, or L through J through Z, whatever, I've got my alphabet wrong, would do distance learning on those days. And then they would flip-flop. And then A through K would do distance learning on Thursday and Friday, and the other part of the alphabet would come to school. So each would be here 2 days a week, each would be doing distance learning 2 days a week. That's only if we have to reach a level 2 and separate ourselves more. If we have to reach a level 3, then what we would propose is students whose last names begin with letters A through D attend Tuesday, E through K Wednesday, L through R Thursday, and S through Z Friday. And again, that still puts us to where we at least see our kids once a week. Again, our absolute goal is to have our kids here every day. But if we can't do that, we wanted to have a plan in place that at least allowed us to see them as much as we absolutely could, and then provide distance learning the rest of the time. As far as transportation goes, we are encouraging parents to drop off and pick up to the greatest extent possible. On the buses, we will assign seats, we'll group families together and group daycares together. They call them cohort groups, but it's just grouping them together. We also will only allow students to ride on one bus route. So they'll have to ride the same bus in the morning as they do in the afternoon. The reason behind that is the health department has indicated if they have to do contact tracing and Johnny rides bus 15 in the morning and bus 30 in the afternoon, I've just doubly exposed all those kids. Plus, sometimes it's a matter of they ride this bus in the morning on this day and this bus in the morning on this day. And so it does become a lot of tracing if we had to do that. So they'll have one bus that they're allowed to ride. Now, they can drop off in the morning and ride a bus in the afternoon. They can ride a bus in the morning and pick up in the afternoon, or they have to ride the same bus in the morning and the afternoon. Again, we'll still use hand sanitizer on the bus, and the buses will be cleaned. Food service, of course, we've got some protocols in place there. As far as seating at the tables in the cafeteria, our plan right now is to, I call them scissor them, but you'll have a kid here and then on the opposite side, one here and then one here and then one here and then one here. So we're just gonna zigzag. I mean, we'll get about 6 kids per one of our long tables. And so we have put enough, thankfully, we bought those new tables last year. So we put enough tables in the elementary cafeteria and the high school cafeteria to be able to do that and keep that distance between them. In the classrooms, you know, we'll put the chairs and tables as far apart as we possibly can. You know, 6 feet is the goal. We got some additional guidance today that said we know it's going to be almost impossible to do 6 feet, but at least try to do 3 feet. And regardless, have them sitting, everybody facing the same direction so nobody's facing head to head. One of the things that I have had Steve and Greg start working on are plexiglass partitions. So every elementary teacher and then the high school teachers who want one will have a plexiglass shield. So when they're working at their kidney table with small groups or one-on-one, they'll have that plexiglass barrier between them and their kids. You know, we'll be cleaning desks multiple times a day. We'll be cleaning doorknobs multiple times a day, frequent hand washing and sanitizing. I have ordered quite a bit of that, so we should be good to go there. You know, we're going to spread out restroom breaks and that kind of thing. You know, when visitors and parents come, visitors and parents are only going to be allowed in the building if absolutely necessary, and they'll only come to the office. They won't be out in the building. So if they need a kid or something, the kid will have to come to them. If it's absolutely imperative that they're in the building, then we'll do a screening to make sure that they don't show any signs. And again, it goes on to talk about student and staff, some of the symptoms. As far as return to school, if somebody is exhibiting symptoms or has tested positive, we took that directly off the CDC website. So these are the return to school guidelines. So we took that directly off the CDC website. We are going to ask that every student has a refillable water bottle, so there won't be any drinking from the fountains. We have the water bottle filling stations, and I actually ordered 3 more of those today. So that will put us with 3 in the high school, 3 in the elementary, 1 in the field house, and 1 in the middle school. So we'll have a total of 8 of those. So hopefully those should be in the next few weeks as well. Again, we'll just be doing a lot of sanitizing. Each grade level is going to have their own tub of recess materials, balls, hula hoops, frisbees, that kind of thing. And they'll be sanitized after each use. Each building will have its own kind of triage area. So if someone is exhibiting symptoms, they will be in that room, and only health-related personnel who are properly outfitted will be able to go in and assess them. Masks are being encouraged at this time. They are not mandated. I mean, it's a month between now and when school starts. So that may be something that's coming. You know, I said, this is really one of those situations where there's opinions on both sides of that. And so we are encouraging people to wear masks, especially if they're immunocompromised or have any type of immune deficiency, or they're just concerned about it. So again, there's a month between now and then, so a lot could happen between now and the time school starts. But those are some of the basic things that we have in place, or that we're considering right now. And one of the things that will have to happen is staff will have to sign that they have read this and that they're going to abide by the protocols. And then parents and guardians will have to sign as well that they've gotten these protocols, they understand them. If they have questions, they're going to ask, they're going to do their part to help screen their child before they come to school. One of the things that they have said now, and I heard this twice today, is they're really not recommending that we screen them when they get to school, because that causes a bottleneck. And so then it's harder to social distance them. So we're asking that parents screen before they get to school based on these criteria. And then if a kid comes to school and is visibly not feeling well, or the teacher thinks, maybe they need to be screened, then we can screen them. But as far as screening every student that walks through the door, that's not the recommendation at this point. Again, all of that could change tomorrow, but that's where we are with that right now.
So we updating our absentee policy for that?
Yes, we actually this year will not be held accountable on our annual performance report for attendance. And then they are working on a different method for funding, because our funding is also tied to attendance. So they are working on that. They've already told us we won't be held accountable for attendance on our annual performance report. And they've already told us that we're not to do any type of perfect attendance incentives. We're not going to do any type of attendance recognition, because for all these years, we've sent the message that come to school, come to school, come to school. I mean, I've told parents myself, send your child to school. If they're sick, we'll send them home. Well, that's not the message that we're sending now. So yeah, attendance is, our policies will change on attendance.
We're still going to record attendance and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll still record attendance. It just won't be as punitive, I guess, is what it's been in the past. Because again, we truly don't want we don't want somebody coming.
Right.
for 6. So, some of that, the admin team and I are still ironing out. When they get back, we have a meeting on August 4th, and we'll iron out what some of that's gonna look like. But yeah, attendance will be,
That's one of the issues for high school, especially just so many days they have to take finals, little kids come to school sick, they don't take finals.
right,
So, and that's something we probably don't have.
yeah. And even the whole, if you miss so many days, you don't get your credit. I mean, we're gonna have to rework all of that, because, you know, if a kid has been exposed, they're out 2 weeks. So all of that will have to be things that we rework. And the administrators are aware of that. We just haven't finalized all of that yet.
So if we go to level 2 and 3, we still offering transportation on those days?
Yes. So they would still run their same route. They may have 10 kids one day and 6 kids. And if that happens, I think Joe and I can work together to say we're sending one bus to these 2 areas and one bus to these 2. You know,
What's the virtual, when my kid's not at school and he's at home, what's that looking like?
well, that will largely be based on the class and the teacher, but a lot of it I think will be through Google Classroom. Well, let's see, that'll be Austin, because he'll be, you know, a senior.
Right.
So grade 7 through 12, a lot of that will be through Google Classroom. In the elementary grades, I think some of it will be virtual. I think some of it will still be paper pencil, because they're not one-to-one technology yet. The nice thing that will be is if they can at least be here 2 days a week or even 1 day a week, we at least have the opportunity to teach some core concepts and provide them with what they need to do when they get home versus everything having to be sent out to them. So I'm hoping that with a spread out plan like that, we will never have to shut down. That's my goal.
Right, so they'll be able to take things back to home.
Yes.
Like the internet's on free.
Yes, and one of the things that we are looking, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ty, I'm sorry. One of the things that we are looking into is there are devices out there. One's called a Kajit, I know that one for sure, and then US Cellular just sent me something the other day too, that they're hotspots, but they're supposed to be even better than hotspots because, you know, if you just have a traditional hotspot, if you don't have a cell phone signal, you can't get a hotspot, won't do you any good. And so we're trying to find ways that those kids can have internet access, even if they don't have internet in their home. And even if that means I put one in a centralized location to this area, and I put one in a centralized location to this area. So that's something else that we're looking at to use some of our CARES Act money for. And like today, I ordered 50 gallons of hand sanitizer. So some of that, our CARES Act money will step in and pay for it as well.
Discussion, action items, first reading of policy 4131.
So I am asking for a revision of this policy after the 3rd reading. Our policy does not specifically state how daily rate of pay will be figured for extra contract days. So when our ag teachers, for example, work extra contract days, or our counselors, or our librarians. So in the past, it's always just been understood that you take their salary, divide it by 180 days, that's their daily rate of pay, and then you multiply that by however many extra days they work. Well, with us going to a 4-day week, if we divide it by 157 days, and I gave you an example there, so somebody who makes $45,675 and has 20 extra contract days, you know, if we divide it by 180, it's $253.75 a day. But if we divide it by 157, it's $290.92 a day. So that person actually gets a $743.40 raise just because they're working fewer days. The same is true, and I didn't put this in there, but if we're gonna dock days, the same is true. All of a sudden, they're getting docked way more for a day than what they were before if they end up getting dock days. So my recommendation on that is to actually put in policy, and this is the way we do it prior to a 4-day week. 9-month employees will be divided by 180 days, 10 months, 200, 11 months, 220, and 12 months, 240. And that just keeps it consistent across the board with what we're doing now. And we don't have some people getting a huge raise simply because they work extra contract days. Because they already, I mean, their raise that they got is already figured into those extra contract days. It's just that now we would be dividing it by fewer days. That makes sense? So the recommended revision is also in your folder for you to look at as well. And it's just that, it's just exactly what it says.
Approval of the milk bids.
Well, let me just tell you, I did not ever think I would agonize over a milk bid, but I have. You will see, if you look at the bids, that Graves Foods actually comes in lower than Central Dairy for milk. You know, as is typical, most of the time you're gonna go with the lowest bid. Charlene, who I highly, highly, highly respect, wholly wants to go with Central Dairy. And a lot of hers was because of the customer service. And she had talked to our sales rep there, and he had told her, you know, we're not going to do things like put the milk in the cooler for you. We're not going to rotate your milk for you. We won't take back any expired milk. Once it's yours, it's yours. We don't take back the expired milk. So then yesterday, I contacted Graves myself and said, you know, can you just tell me what you do? Like, what will your drivers do? And the lady I spoke to yesterday said, well, if you're used to Central Dairy, I can tell you that we're not going to provide you the level of customer service that Central Dairy does. Our main business is grocery stores. They're our bread and butter. We can take your contract, but we're not going to give you the service that Central Dairy does. We just don't make that much off of full milk products, was the answer she gave me. And I thanked her for being honest with me. Based on the fact that we've already cut one position from the cafeteria, I would like to go with Central Dairy, even though they are more expensive, simply because of the level of customer service. I feel like we're already going to be a little more shorthanded this year in the cafeteria. If they have to take on all of the milk rotating and checking to see what's expired, and I just feel like that's more than what I need them to take on at this point, considering that we've already cut their staff. So my recommendation, and again, I wholly respect Charlene, and she runs a program in the black every single year. So if she tells me we can do it, I'm going to believe her. And her recommendation is to remain with Central Dairy Prairie Farms.
I don't remember who was on.
We did Central, I've done Central Dairy before.
Well, we went with Coles one year because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Basically, it was like Graves, and we didn't get any credit for expired milk. They would bring the crates of milk out, set them inside the door, and leave.
And that's what Graves does.
And they didn't go through the coolers or exchange anything, give you credit for anything. They dropped the crates off, and that was it. And
yeah.
See ya. Here's your bill.
Right.
At least Central Dairy, their expired stuff, we did get credits. I do believe.
We do get. They're our provider now, and we do get credits.
We get credits for that. And
Well, they were last couple of years that we've done business on the market, so we've been Central Dairy, and they've always been a little bit more. Still done that.
The other thing is you're gonna make up some of the difference just in the cost of expired milk that you have to do for.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's just certain kinds of things don't like, you have to stop it, when it expires, you have to throw it away.
Well, and there are certain times, you know, if you have milk and you end up with 2 snow days in a weekend, you may come back on Monday and some of it's expired. So, yeah, there's just certain times that that happens as well.
I'll entertain a motion. Good motion by Mark. By Naomi. Further discussion? All in favor? Bread bid.
This one was a little bit easier. We received one bid. And it was from Graves, who is our current supplier. And for that one with bread, you just come in and put it down, so it's not that big of a deal. But Graves is our current supplier. They are the only ones who submitted a bid. The actual bid itself is in your packet. Yeah, they do a fine job for bread for us, but you can see the milk, or the, no, it's not milk, the bread bid. And again, they are the only ones who put in a bid,
A
and
couple of years ago, we had somebody for all of it, but I don't think they
yeah, they,
did.
this was the only one that we received. So I didn't agonize over this one. What was that?
We have Jumbo bread for 2 years there.
Huh?
Jumbo bread.
Oh. And like I said, Charlene's been happy with them as far as their bread goes.
Make a motion to accept the Graves bid.
Motion with five. Second by Dennis. Further discussion? All in favor? Propane bid.
We did receive 3 bids for propane, Ferrogas, MFA Oil, and Three Rivers. Three Rivers is our current propane supplier, and they were the low bid this year at 82 cents per gallon. And my recommendation would be to remain with Three Rivers.
Yeah, for one that uses propane, 82 cents a gallon, it's a good price.
Oh, I was, yeah, I was
Wish I could do that.
ecstatic.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid for 3 Rivers propane.
Second. Motion by Dennis. Second by Naomi. Third by-
Sound that
Down that.
Have a problem with
There
propane?
you
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Set milk and lunch prices.
So every year we have to look at our lunch prices, and we have to, there's actually a called paid lunch equity tool that I have to complete. So for at least the 3rd year in a row, maybe longer than that, but I know the 3rd year in a row, because we are in the black, we do not have to raise our lunch prices again this year. So lunch prices, I am recommending staying the same. You'll see the current prices here. Milk right now is 30 cents a carton. I am recommending that we raise it 5 cents. The price of milk is going up regardless of who you go with. And so I would like to take milk to 35 cents. And again, that's just for kids who get an extra milk. I mean, the milk is included with your lunch, so it's just if they get an extra milk or something like that. So I'm recommending that lunch prices stay the same, but that we raise milk prices to 35 cents a carton.
Unless she's not making us raise our lunches. Last time we.
I was gonna say, I was just thinking, didn't Bessie make us raise our lunch prices?
A few years back, yeah, we had to add 10 cents to it. even though we were in the black.
And we may get to that point again. They
We were
didn't
in the
make us,
black, they just said you didn't charge enough, you have to raise. And that was the only, and then we asked for more information, and our own information was that you're too low.
and I know year before last, in the middle of the year, they made you raise adult prices too. So, I mean, I'm not gonna say they couldn't review that. We're not up for a food service review this year, so I don't think that they will. But as of, I mean, I've actually received back in writing that we don't have to.
I'll make a motion that we keep the lunch prices that are current and that we raise the price of milk to 35 cents. Extra milk. Correct?
Yeah.
Extra milk.
We have a motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Mark. Further discussion? All in favor? Set tuition rate for 2020, 2021.
So state statute does require that we have a set tuition rate for non-resident students. There is a spreadsheet, a template that you use to figure out what your tuition should be, and I did include that in your packets for you to look at to see how I came up with the number that I came up with. Right now, for 1920, our tuition rate was $7,500 per student based on the information that I had to put in the spreadsheet and the calculation. It recommends that we set our tuition at $8,300 for non-resident students, and that is, of course, an increase of $800. Currently, we only have one student who is a tuition-based student. That family also owns property in the district, so you subtract out what they pay for property taxes. So they don't actually, because they pay property taxes, they don't actually pay $8,300, but we do have to set a tuition rate for non-resident students.
I'll make a motion to set the tuition rate for 2021 to 8,300.
Motion by Ty,
I'll second that.
second by Dennis. Further discussion? All in favor? Approval of time and date of tax rate hearing.
Normally, we just do that right before the August meeting, so that would be August 18th at 6:30. I know last year, and I think for several years, we've also done a facility walkthrough at 5:30. If that's something you still want to do, we could do that at 5:30, and then set the tax rate hearing at 6:30 on August 18th.
I'll entertain a motion.
If we need a motion, I'll make a motion that we set the tax rate hearing for 6:30 PM on August 8th.
We have a motion by Dennis, second. Second by Mark. Further discussion? We're gonna do the walkthrough,
I think we should.
typically do
You want to do that at 5:30?
5:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can walk back.
Yeah.
She'll send it
I will.
back.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Declare items surplus.
We have some items that we would like to try to put out for bid and get rid of. We have a Cub Cadet commercial tank zero turn mower, a beautiful 1991 Chevrolet S10 truck. That's the one that's sitting out behind the ag shop. And then we have 11 red and white cafeteria tables. They're Kruger International tables. They're the ones that came out of the high school. We're keeping, in addition to the extra ones that we've already put in the cafeteria, we're keeping 3 just in case we need benches off of them or tabletops or parts of some sort. So that leaves us with 11 that we want to surplus. Need to have those declared surplus.
I make a motion that we declare the items presented as surplus and allow us to dispose of them.
Motion by Dennis. Second by Mark. Further discussion? Where do you surplus these at?
You have to put, you're supposed to put them out for bid, so we put them on gov deals usually. Mhm.
I just wondered, if it was just in the newspaper, and you're gonna take bids or do the gov deals thing? which is
I would-
a lot
I would-
simpler.
Yeah, I would do the gov deals thing.
I've done it both ways.
Yeah.
The sealed bid thing, kind of.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Approval of transportation contract.
Due to the move again to a 4-day week, Joe has redone our transportation contract for the next 3 years. You have a copy of the contract in your board packet. So, the way he types this, it's got more than I can type. So, our total cost for 9 routes would be $327,643.81. And that, is a decrease over previous years due to a 4-day week. Joe and I are actually pretty hopeful that maybe we won't have to have that, extra route in the afternoon, because the bus only going, you get one bus. Because often what gets us is somebody's having a slumber party, so 10 kids go on the bus home with them, and we just can't do that this year. So we're hopeful we won't need that extra bus, but if we do, then of course that cost is in there as well.
I'll make the motion to approve the contract.
Motion by Mark. Second by Dennis. Further discussion? All in favor? Right hand. Before we move on to, when do we approve the bus route? Will that be
In August.
August? Announcements. Next regular meeting will be August 18th, 2020. We'll have to walk through the process. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the session.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the closed session. Very, one legal, 3 personnel, 13 personnel.
Have a motion by Mark.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Dennis. Further discussion? Roll call. Scott? Yes. Naomi? Mark? Yes. Dennis? Yes. Yes, by me, 5-0. Meeting is adjourned.